Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight here at the Leak Project. Tonight, we have regular guest Steve Olson with us, founder of the Wormwood System Observer. You can watch his near daily updates on the infamous Planet X at his YouTube channel, Steve Olson WSO, Wormwood System Observer. Now, within just a few short months, the WSO has turned into a 20,000 plus community of researchers, whistleblowers, and everyday people that want answers the mainstream brain drain media won't touch. Celestial Dynamics. It's great to have you on the show with us tonight here at the Leak Project. Steve, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Rex. How are you tonight?
Doing fantastic. It's
good.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on the show. We talked for a minute before we started the broadcast. I check out your site daily, your YouTube channel, and that video that you recently came up with, you titled it the Green Planet. What is it? And then I just made a funny comment on there. Hey, it's the Green Kachina. And somebody immediately blasted, hey, there's nothing about that in prophecy. So I had to make sure that everybody knew it was just a joke. You have to see that stuff all the time. I mean, you're filtering through all sorts of comments, and you deal with all sides of the spectrum. So how are things going with the WSO? And then later I want to definitely get into that balloon project you've got going on.
Yeah, right on. And so WSO is growing, and it's the most eclectic mix of people that I have ever seen assembled in my life. I have people that are, from a political perspective, all the way from hardcore Bernie supporters to they would live and die with Trump, right? I've got people that are esoteric. I've got people that are deeply, spiritual, people that come from Buddhist faith, for example. And I have the most fundamentalist Christians in the world that tell me I'm going to hell because I don't believe the earth is flat.
Right.
So I have all spectrums, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this channel is how many different, stripes are noticing this, including, and let me not forget to include the intellectual groups that communicate with me constantly now. I've hooked into some groups now that notice the work, as you would imagine, and they've reached out to me, and they are, they're validating, first of all, validating a lot of the work. They won't tell me when I'm wrong. That's the only problem, okay? The people that say that they're insiders and are saying we've been doing this for a long time, we've been tracking it since 2003, blah, 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 they'll tell me when things are good, but they won't specifically pull out anything wrong. It's almost like they're trying to keep their hands off me. Similarly, I'm not getting any threats, Rex. You'd think that given the number of people that have been, harmed by Nibiru research, like give you a great example, Marshall Masters. I think you know Marshall, right?
Oh, yeah, I've talked to Marshall several times.
Yeah, and Marshall's a friend of mine as well, and I'm proud to say that. And he was on my show the other day, and we were just sharing and everything like that. But look at the bounce back and forth that guy had to go through over the last 10 years, where people truly, in a very vicious way, attacked his reputation, attacked his spirituality, attacked him as an individual. Look at Bob Fletcher. Bob Fletcher had to suffer at least, I think, 3 break-ins where he lost, up to 90% of his material on the subject that he had been collecting over the last 20 years. And if you've ever heard Bob's story on that, he makes a very open story about it.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, he said that he almost had his shoulder blown apart or he did have his shoulder blown apart because of some electronic directed weapon because of the stuff he used to be involved.
So something that's concerning me a little bit, and I won't say that I have tremendous resistance, organized resistance, certainly the normal stuff. But there's almost a part of me that's like, are they letting us get this message out now? Is there a reason why they're letting us have so much editorial freedom right now? And I'm not just talking about me. There's probably 5 or 6 other of us right now that just popped out of the woodwork. And we all collaborate. We're all friends. We all started, looking at this stuff together very sheepishly and saying, hey, should we even talk to anybody about this, right? And none of us are seeing any kind of threats or anything like that yet. And that to me is interesting. I would have expected that by now.
Well, I've thought that too, because there's certainly so much information out there now about Nibiru. If they didn't want this information to be exposed, they'd shut it down. I mean, they have access to all the keys in the kingdom, and it's all electronic now. So it's very easy with programs out there and algorithms to track certain keywords and such and shut it down. It's really not that difficult. But I haven't had any death threats by posting stuff about Nibiru. But I have had people post. Matter of fact, I'm looking at one right now, a screenshot I took, where somebody told me that, because I'm neutral on the subject of the Planet X. I talk to people like yourself, and you give me some great evidence, and I'm certainly a lot more intrigued by it than I was before. So with that said, I get these messages saying that whether I believe it or not, if I post videos about Nibiru, that I should be put to death to protect others and myself because I'm scaring people. So I've actually received 2 or 3 emails now saying that.
Yeah, yeah. The implied blame of scaring people into paranoia, those kinds of things. And and one of the things that I think you pride yourself on, and I listen to your show all the time, and I think that you come at things with a real level head and don't get overly excited, and try to maintain a sense of decorum about the subjects. And I do the same thing. And I don't panic. I don't try to panic my audience. I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm just saying in these videos, I see conclusive proof that we're being approached by some body or bodies. And there is just a ton of evidence that's almost to the point of overwhelming. And I approach it like a lawyer. I said, if I had to corroborate a case, to say I had to prove that, say, plaintiff A has complaint about a defendant B. If I was doing this as a court case, I tell people I would win 100 out of 100 cases on this subject right now. And it's because we're coming at it from 9 or 10 different directions now. We're not just coming at it with photographic evidence. We're coming at it with space imagery. We're coming at it with astronomers that are now coming forward sheepishly to say things. We have revelation, for example, that I'm going to share with you today, that if people want to just look at the moon when it starts to come back into its quarter moon status here in the next several days, that I'm going to give you a test where you can see that the Earth is tilting at least 22 degrees, and all you have to do is look at the moon to prove it. Why are we tilting? Because this big magnet in space is pulling our northern hemisphere towards it. You know what I mean? Or our southern hemisphere. I haven't figured it out yet. Because I don't have all the data, man. I look at the magnetogram, for example. How do I know that data coming off the magnetogram from NASA is correct? I've already seen them actually in the process of blotting out subjects on like Core 2. I've actually seen them editing the photos, right? It's like I know we can't trust it, but that's not the only thing we rely on. We go over here and then we talk to astronomers like Farada, or we look at the work of Harrington's, or we look at the work of other astronomers in space, right? And then we come back over here and we have all this eyewitness testimony from all over the world that has been compiled, where people are seeing phenomenon that seem to corroborate the theory that there's planetary bodies and or a system in our solar system or close to it. We've got photo evidence from the Skycam network, and and people taking photographs of the sky and capturing images that aren't possible to see with your eyesight, like the image I'm going to show you here in a minute, for example. And so when you start to plow all of these different things together, it starts to paint this picture, and then you start to say, well, if this is happening, it is clear also that somebody's trying to hide it desperately. Well, who has the resources to do such a thing? It would take almost all the world governments to do it, right? Well, lo and behold, we see stories of chemtrail airplanes, CIA, U.S. Air Force contracted, being shot down over China and instantly taken away and off the news grid immediately when it happens. The short report will come out and say it was nozzled to all these different apparatus and so forth. And we can all see these damn things in the sky, Rex. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to look up and see unusual amount of contrail activity. It's not like we're in World War II and we're getting bombed by the Americans or something. You know what I mean?
That's another thing too, is the chemtrails that are going out there right now. I mean, people still today, if you read some of the comments, they say chemtrails don't exist. You have absolutely no proof. And I find that so humorous because there are thousands and thousands of photographs that show giant tanks retrofitted inside of airplanes. You can see plenty of footage of these dispersants that, when they are dispersed in the atmosphere, it takes a lot longer to dissipate. The different colors, the different patterns, and if you cross-reference those patterns to supposed commercial flights and residential flights, etc., it has no connection with where they're going. So there's so much information out there. Just type in weather manipulation on Google, and one of the first posts that comes up is a company that actually profits on weather manipulation. It's called I can't remember the name of the company, but they say what some people call conspiracy, we call profit, where they make money causing rain and cloudy, seeding clouds, etc. So there's tons of information out there, from declassified documents, reported leaked documents, etc. And there's, I'm sure, different applications for chemtrails. So with that said, also, some days they block out certain parts of the sky, and I've wondered why. And maybe that is to block these heavenly bodies.
Right. I used to think that chemtrailing was some kind of a benevolent activity on the part of my government on the governments of the world to slow down global warming, because I really, believed in climate change being caused by, man. Okay. Until I started to learn about the fact that we were being approached by a big magnet, and then that changed my whole point of view on that. But the point being is that I really did feel like there was a chance that that was probably what was happening. So I was willing to overlook it. I think a lot of people just overlook it and just say, yeah, they're probably doing it, but I trust that they're doing a good thing. Okay. So just don't bother me with it until you see a report like this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Can you see this analytical report that we got from one of well, it was one of the people on Facebook that belonged to one of these groups. And you'll see that this was just recent rain. It was 319 rainfall, San Francisco. I believe it was in San Francisco. But anyway, point being is that the result was, and we see this all over the place. This is the first one. We just, this is just somebody doing their own analysis in their backyard, right? 540 units when the regular level should be 50 of aluminum. 39 units when it should be 5. And then just a little bit higher levels of strontium, okay? And then some other surrogates that they tested, and there's a whole list of things that they tested. But these were the outliers, the ones that were like, what? And we're not the only ones that saw this result. I mean, we see this aluminum result all over the place. If you really dig into this, you'll find out that there's some crazy stuff that's been analyzed. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Why are they doing so much aluminum? Well, the hypothesis in my group goes, well, aluminum is a highly reflective material and can be used to obfuscate objects in the sky. And that's what we believe part of the chemtrailing idea is. And you'll notice that really, if you start tracking chemtrailing, usually they're always doing it in a pattern that you can see that they're doing it in slices as to basically cover the Earth at a certain period of time. And usually it's at sunrise or sunset that they heavily lay it on.
Well, I definitely see that. And in San Antonio, there was a few weeks there where there were no chemtrails, at least during the day. So if they did it, it was late at night, and the cloud wasn't there. The cloud cover wasn't there in the morning. But there has been quite a bit going on lately. And the different chemicals and stuff that they found in there, you can go all the way to possibly Morgellons caused by certain particulates. I know that they found genetically modified E. coli in there, and just nasty stuff. There's also been speculation of nanoparticulates that can actually rewrite certain parts of the brain to get rid of the God gene, like the FunVax. I'm sure you know about that. Many of your listeners.
Or the micro nanobots that can actually produce polymers. I mean, there's a lot of research out there on this, Rex. I mean, I don't mean to take this down the chemtrail idea.
No, let's talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, but when you start to become a Wormwood Nibiru researcher, what you start to find out is that there is a huge cover-up, okay? and it comes in many forms. Now, I didn't say that I wasn't being harassed. I've never been threatened, but I am harassed constantly. Okay. And what I mean by harassment is it takes me sometimes 5 hours to upload a video on my, 30 meg circuit. Okay.
Right.
Right. So I definitely see resistance. I see the trolls that try to rip my subscribers away from me and make them feel like I'm some kind of crazy man running around, which I am. Sorry to say. Um, but the point being is that there's this aluminum, and so we know that aluminum would have excellent light refractive properties. I mean, just backing away from all that really crazy nanobot stuff, which your listeners can go look it up. Trust me, there are a movement out there. There's a movement in California right now that has legal action now. The city of Los Angeles actually posted public notice of chemtrailing. This is not BS anymore, guys. This is in the public record now. I mean, go look it up. All we're saying at WSO is we think that one component of chemtrailing is to cover up Nibiru. And if you're an astronomer and you're trying to look at the sun or near sun objects or objects that are approaching from below the sun, you are not going to be able to see anything through the layers of stuff that I'm going to show you tonight, Rex. I mean, I actually want to show you what we think. We found evidence that they're actually obfuscating the sun from space, not from the Earth, but some kind of shield in space that we think we're capturing. I'd like to show you that tonight.
That'd be great.
Again, these are wild theories. They sound like wild theories until you start seeing, literally, I look at 500 to 1,000 images a day, Rex. You know what I mean? And I've seen, it's kind of like, when a counterfeit is a counterfeit and when real is real. And I wanted to show you something from my backyard. Can we stop on this for just a second before I get off of it?
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great.
So you see this is actually, so we just funded the balloon project. So we got to about $2,000 in funding for it, which was enough for us to get our first complete rig. And this is me testing the camera in my backyard. So I found the highest spot of my property, which, by the way, if anybody wants to know, it's at 1,200 feet above sea level.
Hey,
and it's
Steve,
one of the highest.
I got to interrupt real quick just to confirm. You decided to do this project because you wanted to prove it to everybody that the Earth is flat, right?
No, I actually proved that it's concave. See, we're actually living in a big inverted circle. No.
You mean it's not flat?
No, I'm sorry, guys.
You're going to hell, Steve.
I know. Well, it's funny that you should mention that because it's almost these positions that people take, like flat earthers, Rex, or the Nibiru is a planet. It's not a star system. All these different points of view that you have on this phenomenon. They almost take it to a religious fervor. And I think a lot of people expect me to take it to a religious fervor, and I'm really not doing that. I'm very Christian, and I will not bow to anybody on that issue, and I'm going to share Jesus when I get an opportunity to do that. But for the most part, my show is about this system, and it's about observations that we're seeing from around the world on this system, right? So one of the observations that we see is that we get chemtrailed to death. We were just talking about that, right? So I was thinking about it, and I said, well, why don't we get into some high altitude balloon research? Why don't we get a balloon and see how high we can get up? Well, as it turns out, we can take these balloons, these amateur balloons, we can get them up to about 130 feet, 130,000 feet.
Are you going to attach like a GoPro or Sony Action Cam to them also?
Yep. And this camera that I'm going to show you from my backyard, and the reason I want to show it to you is not because I think it's a cool camera. I want to show it to you because I actually captured something today.
Great.
So nobody's ever seen this footage, except for me and my German Shepherd.
Okay? Exclusive here first at the Leap Project.
This is the camera I'm actually testing to go on the balloon. So what I've been doing, just to kind of give you a little background, I've got the rig completely together. I've got the flight computer on it. I've got all the first riggings. This is me just doing tests with the camera because I don't want to waste the flight and then end up not successful because I didn't set the exposure right or something, right? So here I'm testing different exposures, and today's test was maximum, or basically the least amount of exposure that I could let through this camera and it still be HD. Okay?
Okay.
So the first thing you need to understand about this is I'm trying to reduce the glare of the sun so we can see objects around the sun. When I get my balloon, this first balloon is going to go to 80,000 feet, by the way. I didn't mean to claim this one will go to 130,000. The first test flight will go to 80,000 or so. It will explode. And while it goes up on the flight, I'll have a flight computer gathering data, temperature, wind, pressure, those kinds of things. And then the camera will be taking photographs all of the Earth and all around it, and it will be a video. So I'll basically be doing a video from space, okay? So this is me testing the camera, okay, that we're going to put up in our near space mission, okay? And the idea is we want to get above the chemtrails, okay? We want to completely get above anything an airplane could lay down. And the max altitude of most of these big, 737s that are spraying this stuff is 39 to 40,000 feet. So we'll be approximately 40,000 feet above ceiling for most of those aircraft. You follow me so far?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's why we decided to do the balloon flight. You wouldn't believe the vitriol you get about when you try to do a project like this. What a silly man! Look at him going off with this little balloon. And I was thinking to myself, is this what Wilbur, went through, man, when they were trying to make their airplane? You know what I mean? It's like, do I really have to put up with this, man? I explained to you the airfoil. I'm going to go test it, okay?
The lemmings come out.
I know, right? He must be working with black magic. Anyway, so here we are. This is my backyard. Time-lapse photography, okay? La-da-da, right?
Okay.
So far, so good, right? This is just this afternoon. And oh my gosh, the sun is what shape again?
Like
what shape is the sun supposed to be, Rex?
Circular.
Why is the sun square or diamond shaped? That's the first observation.
It's the big Dyson cube in front of it, usurping up all the energy.
Well, we actually think there is a big, not Dyson sphere cube, but basically a big screen in space. And you can actually see the edge of it on this. And I'm sorry that it dimmed on you there. But you can, when it starts up again, you'll see the outer edge of this thing because you'll notice that the little like clover red pattern will actually end at the edge of it. Okay?
Okay.
Thing I'm going to show you, I want you to pay attention to this dot. Because remember when I was showing you that dot in Leon and I was showing you how it followed the sun when it went across the sky? And then I showed you its refraction. I was able to get that today from Wisconsin. So here we go. The sun's going through its paces. You're going to see little orbs around it and different things that can probably be explained mostly as lens flares. Okay? Right. But again, it's not a round sun going through its paces. Do you see that little red, like, there's like a red circle around the sun? You'll see it at different times. Now we're going to wait for this clear piece now. Okay, did you see that little round thing come up from the bottom?
I did not.
All right, let's go back. I'm going to show you this one. Okay, it's going to come up here. Here it comes. See it? See it? No? You didn't see it, did you?
No.
I'll do it one more time. This time I'll try to stop on it. It's not a very good program here. Here we go. There it goes. See it? Right there.
And it's coming off the left?
It went around the sun like that and then back.
By
like
where your cursor is?
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that.
So that was like a little planet that I caught yesterday. Now this is today. So we had a much better film from today. I'm sorry. I should put that one up first. My bad.
No problemo.
But that was the planet I caught yesterday in the square sun. So I thought that was interesting. That was at a much higher exposure. Now watch, today's film is at a much lower exposure. So you can already notice that the exposure is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's reduced the glare quite a bit. So that was the first thing I was looking for. Now, what we got was, you remember when we were talking about the strange lens flare refraction on the cams down south?
Yes.
Oh, here it is here. This is that classic plasma shape, Rex, right? This shape does not exist outside of plasma science, okay? There are 4 states of matter: solid, gas, liquid, and plasma. And when you get 2 opposing forces, like our theory is that our sun and this other sun are very much opposed to each other, and they're going to cause plasma in between them. And that's what we think we're seeing there. So this is from my backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is this shows up, which is where the source of this refraction is coming from. So if you do a straight line, the sun doesn't line up with this. That little dot on the bottom will end up with it. Now watch how bright this dot gets.
Okay.
Look at that. And then this is its refraction. That's not how a flare would go across a convex lens, by the way. So that is actually the object that we captured in Lyon, and that is the same object that not object, but phenomenon, plasma phenomenon, that we saw also in Monterey. So now as we're coming more into the spring, we're later in the year, so now we're able to see it just like they saw it down in the southern hemisphere earlier in the year. And that's the object. So you go, oh, well, I can just put on my welding glasses and I can see it, right? I'll say, no, because it's not generating any light on its own. It's basically a plasma reaction. It's 2 forces that are, you can see it, and the sun will definitely reflect its rays off of it and things like that, but it doesn't generate its own light, so you can't see it with the welding glasses.
How big is it?
I can't tell how big it is, Rex. I've been looking at this thing now for 3 months from different parts of the world, and now this is the first time I got it from my own backyard. This is the first time I was able to get this shape from my own backyard, that's for sure. And again, it was because of the time-lapse photography and the very, very low exposure, okay? Because if I expose this more, you will not see anything around the sun, okay? You just won't. So here's that shape again. Now, you can't reproduce that in a closet, man. You can't reproduce this. You can reproduce this. You can reproduce this. You can probably even get planets to show up, but you're not going to get one of these, man. Okay? This is crazy. That's a plasma reaction, everybody. And it's like pretty damn close to us. You know what I mean? And I laugh again out of, hysterical, craziness, I guess.
So could that affect like satellites and communication systems, or?
Well, in fact, one of the things that I'm going to go into in my next video is we did have a big geomagnetic storm this last couple of days. So if you follow Suspicious Observers, or if you follow, BP or any of those guys, they all were talking about it. And what's interesting about this geomagnetic storm that we just had was there was no flares, Rex. There was no filaments flying off the sun. Do you know what they blamed this most recent geomagnetic storm on?
People that are voting for Donald Trump.
Close.
I don't know.
It was from the dark spots on the sun.
Okay.
So this is the first time I've heard anybody say, yeah, we know that there are gravitational changes that happen when one of these dark spots hit us. And I've been watching the sun with Suspicious Observers for like the last year. I'm a subscriber. A lot of people everybody wants to call everybody his show. I learn a hell of a lot from those guys over there, okay? And they do an everyday sun report, okay? And every day they say the sun is quiet, the sun is quiet, the sun is quiet. The Earth-facing disk is quiet, the Earth-facing disk is quiet. Then you pull back and then you look at, core 2 or H1, and you see unbelievable energy escaping the sun and just blasting stuff left and right. Well, here we had one of those core opposite days again. Here, where we know we're going to have geomagnetic, interaction between the Earth and the sun because of these dark spots that show up and that kind of face us sometimes. We don't see geomagnetic effects like a big geomagnetic storm usually from that. I've never seen it. So what was causing the geomagnetic storm this weekend? It seems like they were really stumbling, Rex, to figure out a way to explain it to us dummies, okay? After they've been telling us that we don't get CMEs unless there's a fiber that snaps off the first surface, or unless there's a sunspot, an active sunspot. That's how we get CMEs. I didn't know that we got CMEs from the dark spot. I thought that was a sleeping part of the sun, right? So all of a sudden they got to
Strange.
change their freaking story. It's like every time I turn around, heliospheric scientists are changing their stories. You know, uh, it's frustrating to be a researcher in this, let me tell you.
It's the media disinformation campaign, filling people up with little bits and pieces of possible truths and scenarios, and just overwhelming. And then people just hold on to the truth that they feel is most acceptable. When there's, people that say, "Hey, there's no evidence at all about Planet X." Well, actually, there is plenty of evidence. Just type it in, and you can find a plethora of intel from mainstream media outlets that talk about Planet X. As a matter of fact, if you want to get into just some very recent news over the past week, type in Planet X, folks, and go to the past week news articles, mainstream, that have came up. Universe Today came out with an article recently, says, "Is Planet X linked to mass extinctions?" This was April 1st, 2016, by Bob King. And if you read the article, it essentially says that there is a planet, it's called Planet 9, estimated to be 10 times more massive than Earth, according to this article, currently orbiting about 1,000 times farther away from the sun, according to this article. It says astronomers have been searching for a potential large planet for years called Planet X, yada, yada, yada. And then it says over the past 500 million years, there has been several mass extinctions. So it seems like there's this conditioning process where on one side of the conditioning spectrum, they're making people aware of it. They're saying, oh, yeah, we found it, but it's a real long ways away. It's not going to be even close to here for another 1,000 years, 30,000 years, whatever. And then you've got the people that say, oh, it's just total hogwash. And then, folks like yourself that say, okay, well, I've gone out, I've bought the camera, I'm doing a balloon project to get cameras out 80,000, 100,000 feet so we can see for ourselves what's actually out there. You're bringing the intel for people to make their own decision. And that's what's most important and so wonderful about the internet right now and being able to have the freedom to do that. So let's take advantage of it while we can. So, and like you said also, Steve, it seems as if the powers that be kind of want this to be leaked out, and they don't want to do it themselves because they can have plausible deniability. But people like you, like myself here at the Leak Project, like the WSO that bring this information out there, well, we're alternative, we're conspiracy theorists. They can label it however they want. So that's their way of getting the information out there.
Yeah, it's like they could turn around and say, "Oh my God, you made a discovery. How did you do that?"
Right.
Not quite. Here I want to shift. We have been doing a lot of research on this red halo around the sun. I don't know if you remember, we talked about this before.
Absolutely.
And our research continues. So you remember you saw some of that in my imagery that I just showed you from the backyard test for the SATCAM, right? I'm calling it the SATCAM. It's a this is the 99.9% satellite, folks.
That's good.
The satellite for the other 99. Woo!
The 99.
Yeah, the 90. Now, in fact, I'm going to put that right on the balloon, 99%. All right, so
bingo.
So anyway, this big halo. Now, this is from Bulgaria, so we know it's a permanent fixture in the sky, and we've seen it since 2012. Now, I've seen photographic evidence that shows it's a day in, day out thing. And it's not always visible from Earth. It's least visible on a clear blue day, believe it or not. So, but it is always there, okay? And well, so then we go to the ISS photographs, and this is just part of us following through and trying to corroborate, again, trying to figure out a way to, what's going on here, man? I'll come back to these here in a second, Rex.
It's the nano goblins.
It is the nano goblins.
They've infiltrated the interface.
All right, so I was not convinced anymore that this was an atmospheric phenomenon. Okay, and this is one of the mission goals of our satellite, of our poor man satellite, is we want to see if we can find this halo. So this is from space. This is from ISS. Okay, so there is no atmosphere here. There are no ice crystals. There is nothing that would block my view of the sun theoretically at this moment, right? Yet, what do I have? I have a halo. And I have that strange where it shoots out from the edges of the halo. just like we saw in Russia and other places earlier in the year.
Okay.
I'm saying that that halo is in space. It's not on the Earth. It's not atmospheric. It's extra atmospheric. They put a big UV filter up in space. That's what I'm saying.
Like
And
a
that's
big
why the sun.
giant see-through blanket, like saran wrap kind of deal.
Yeah, and if you think about it, this is not as outlandish as you think. I went and did research, and they're talking about. Did you see the article this week, Rex, that they talked about how they were talking about obfuscating the Earth using laser technology from potentially, hostile galactic neighbors? Did you see that article?
No, it sounds
It's it's
great.
in, it's in popular science type thing. It's like yeah, we can obfuscate, we can hide, we can shuck and jive, right? Well, here we go. So I say that they put a big thin layer of some kind of a photoactive material that will cause us not to be able to see what's really going on with the sun, or from Earth, or the objects that are near the sun. And here I'm looking at something that seems to corroborate that from space. And then I go to my Earth photo, right? Wow, there it is from the Earth. So that's what it looks like from Earth. That's what it
Okay.
looks like from space. So why would they put, if my hypothesis is true, why would they put something there like that, Rex?
They could also possibly use some type of nanotechnology in conjunction with the way that they use those patterns for chemtrails to kind of recreate something as a very thin surface, reflective surface in the atmosphere without actually having to go out there with a giant ladder or, being on a helicopter hanging down and putting it together with some type of tools. There you go. Like if you look at that, maybe there's a way that they can actually use the particulates and the materials in the way that it's sprayed in conjunction with the atmosphere to create some type of film, reflective film, to block whatever is out there, so people would have a very difficult time to find it.
Yeah, so if we've got nanobots, let's take the nanobot theory for a second. And those nanobots are primarily what we see as trying to produce a polymer that looks like it has kind of photoactive properties to it, right? And then we saw those maybe out of control production of these filaments in Texas, where we saw them actually floating down from space, and that was well documented. Okay, I don't need to prove that one. All right. Now this one. Now remember we talked about the patterns of chemtrails, and sometimes they take on this pentagram shape. The only difference between the one I showed you before and this one is that this was from yesterday in Iowa.
Okay. Is that by a major city, or I can see the windmills?
No, Iowa does not have major cities.
Well, you got Des Moines.
You got Des Moines and Dubuque, and Iowa City and a couple other cities. But again, this was more in a rural area.
Okay.
This is that stretch, I think, between Wisconsin and central Iowa. But the point being is that but yet here I'm in Wisconsin yesterday, and I barely saw a chemtrail yesterday. So somebody is coordinating this, apparently, in such a way that they can actually focus their resources where they need them the most at that time. And some days I don't get any chemtrails. Other days I get, the sky is plastered and it's like thick with it, which is another proof for their existence. Because if it was just regular airline traffic, wouldn't it be every day?
Swamp gas.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's all swamp gas. Uh,
Just another couple things to throw at you. The reason I wanted to bring this one up is this is that big orb, little orb thing that we see,
okay.
and the fear that my subscribers have in being a subscriber. It takes an act of bravery just to say I'm going to be a subscriber. But I have like literally hundreds of thousands of people that are watching that are never going to subscribe because they're afraid. And when somebody sheepishly comes forward and gives me an image, even if it's something I've seen a million times, I'm going to send them a note and say, that was a brave move. Thank you. So I might have seen this image 100 times, but the gal that sent it to me, she was terrified. She thought that she just stepped, into the firing line. And in a way, you are stepping into the firing line. But I think it's too late, man. I think they know that we can't have any big impact on them, on their plans. Really, I don't think we can. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but there are things that seem to have been put in motion, a lot longer than even though we've been alive. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. And most likely, if there are ancient accounts of this planet accessible to the elite, the aristocratic class that has access to funds and resources and education and stuff that most people don't have access to, because the Smithsonian has taken so much and hidden it into their secret vaults and playgrounds for their select few. So if they knew this was coming, maybe that gave them the opportunity to plan and orchestrate this industrial age that we live in and say, okay, well, we're just going to pillage the planet as much as we can because we know at this time there's going to be no stopping this ginormous planet that's coming close to the Earth. So let's just do what we can. And, with the secret space program that's talked about a lot, I've interviewed many people here on the Leak Project that claim to be have been a part of the secret space program.
I don't want to go as far as to say that I'm completely sold on anything I haven't seen or touched. I'm just a Thomas, okay?
Of course.
But their stories are so credible, okay? And the number of testimonies and the level of these individuals, you can tell that was a colonel. That was not some punk in the military, okay? That was testifying, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so is there a breakaway civilization? I don't know. I'm starting to wonder.
Well, and think about it. If there is, and if they just needed the what they might call the sheep class, or we were joking to earlier, the lemmings, because so many people are just kind of follow the leader mentality, and so many people that I personally know that are great people, they will worship things blindlessly and follow things to the ends of the earth without having true knowledge, just based upon what they've been told growing up or faith. And as much as I think that's a remarkable feature to have that much faith, certainly it's a good idea to cross-reference things and find some evidence in many cases. So in different aspects, if you're going to worry about things like, for example, Wormwood and Nibiru and Planet X, for those that do fear it's coming and the catastrophes that might take place, well, do something about it. Make good with the people be prepared, spend money on food and supplies, and if you're really that nervous about it, get a job in a place that might be safe, like higher elevation, where if there's going to be tidal waves, that you're not going to have to worry about that. Make sure it's not close to nuclear reactors or a lot of waste dumps, industrial waste dumps. There's things and precautions you can take in place. In reality, though, if you feel that it's as bad as it could be, well, there's really not anything you can do anyway. So just enjoy your time.
Yeah, and so part of me is like completely depressed about this, okay? I fancy myself slightly above intelligence, okay? I'm aware of what's going on around me. I've always been politically and socially connected to my environment, you know what I mean? I've always been a news watcher, media hound, political junkie, whatever you want to call it, right? When I first started to be convinced of this, it just changed my whole worldview. But you know what the second thing, though, that happened? Everything started to make sense in world geopolitics. Why people were doing such drastic things, why it seems like the stakes are getting higher. Now, they were going to say it's because of economic collapse. I've been hearing economic collapse since 2007, and I might be a naysayer and somewhat of a skeptic about the scale of economic collapse. I think there's going to be a reset, but everything's going to, I think this will be the change catalyst.
It's all cyclical.
Yeah, I believe that this event is being planned as the pivot point for the human race. That's what I think. And I think that what's going to happen is it's going to happen. A lot of people are going to be eliminated because they're not getting away from the coast, which is the number one thing, by the way. You just got to get away from water and for a while. And then once this thing passes through and it wreaks its destruction, similar to Deep Impact, the movie. Remember that?
Sure do.
Where Morgan Freeman was standing on the destroyed Capitol steps saying, "We will rebuild."
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that's what it's going to look like.
And if also things get really bad, another possibility for those that have unlimited resources and funds would be to build underwater, So, because if it's underground, there's still possibilities of fault lines and things that could go wrong. If it's underwater and it's, set up there to kind of, if beneath the starts to go, crack or something like that, the floor, well, when it starts to go down, it wouldn't, really destroy it if it was structured properly. So there's a lot of UFOs and stuff that come out of the ocean, whether they're our own militaries or not, I don't know, but that's very interesting.
Yeah, and there's no escaping, all of these ancient stories of the Hopi or any of that when you start to look at the Nibiru, Wormwood, Nemesis, Marduk, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So just the fact that it has 100 different names, that should tell you something, right? That there was maybe some kind of cultural memory of it, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
We know that there's been intentional destruction of records in the last 400 years around this subject. The burning of the library in Alexandria, while this would not be the primary motive, we know that they would have had plenty of documentation of previous events from the Alexandria Library. So, in our hypothesis, because obviously the Colburn Bible was the Egyptian attempt to keep us from forgetting about it, and we got that, right?
Right.
So we do have stories to go on. Now, this picture here, check this out. This is from our that little town that we have in Australia.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, Antarctica.
Oh, okay.
And
Antarctica.
that's our little station down there, that little station town. This was just from this morning. This is their quote unquote sunrise because they're on the southern hemisphere. I don't remember seeing a blue, green, yellow sun. Do you?
Oh my goodness, that's interesting. And speaking of the sun, the color of the sun and the intensity of it has changed dramatically over the past 20 years. And another thing too that I just want to bring up before I forget, because you were talking about the possibility of there being some type of interface in the atmosphere that could be created via nanotech. Well, even if you look at the atmosphere during a clear blue sky day and there's no chemtrails, it still doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like it did 20 years ago. It's still hazy and silvery and just like this weird blah is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and the climatologists will tell us that that's because we went over 400 parts per million in carbon. Remember?
Well, is that what they say? Okay.
That's what they say, but it's ridiculous. I mean, you put 400 of anything into a million of anything, you will not be able to find it. Okay, ever.
Unless it's plutonium.
Well, I mean, again, we have these things for science, but what I'm telling you is that it's not enough to change the color of the atmosphere.
Right.
Let's see. What is the other thing I want to show you? Oh, yeah, this one.
So what's your take then on that, on the different colors, though, on that last picture?
Yeah, so I think they're just different bodies, right? So I think that we've got a star, and I'm going to show you a direct on. Let me go there next because this is one of the goals of our balloon mission.
Okay.
Mission is we actually want to get a picture of this. Okay, so this, can you see that? Okay, Rex.
Yeah, I can see that great.
Yep. So you see the circle and you see the little dot in the middle of it.
Yes, I do.
All right. So this is from ISS, and this was a refraction from this, what we think was this huge, thing that we actually got to look at Wormwood. This is what it looks like in space. So we're going to try to get a look at this particular. This is what our goal is to see that. That's what we want to see at the balloon plate. That's what we're going for.
With a much better, crisper image.
Yeah, because again, I took this from a little clip of an ISS image to show what this looks like. And I'm telling you guys, I've looked, in my opinion, and again, I don't try to claim to be a scientist, but you know what? I'm getting sick of people telling me just because we're not scientists, we can't look, right?
Yeah, and you have to have that official title.
Yeah, well, in
indoctrinated.
1995, I would have been the smartest guy in the room. How about that?
Nice.
Right? So shut up. You don't know how smart I am, and I don't know how smart you are. But I can tell you right there, I caught an image of something that's not supposed to be next to our freaking sun, man. What you see there, that dot is our sun. The other one is not our sun. And I'm not backing up from this anymore. It's scary, and people need to realize it's real.
So time out here. The sun is the big circle, and the little dot is
sun.
That's the sun. That's what I thought. And then to the left of it, that guy. Yep, that's what you think is Planet X.
Yep, and we get it from behind the edge of that screen. If you can get behind that, you can actually get an image of it. And that's what
huge.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it is that it does seem to be getting, again, we can't. I wished I had better instruments. I wished I had access to this data so that we could get an exact lock on it. You got guys saying that it could be next week. You got guys saying it could be 2017. You got guys that say it could be until, another 30 years, right? I don't know what to believe on that, Rex. I really don't. How could I tell how close it is based on this crap, right?
Well, I mean, you're Steve Olson, and you should know.
I know, right? Look at this. No, look at this.
The Earth is flat, Steve. Come on.
Yeah, this is our space collaboration here, right? So this is from just a couple days ago, H1, and Jupiter popped off the frame, right? And then it exploded, right? And I'm just telling you a story right now. So this is a story. So I put up on my video, did Jupiter just explode? Tongue in cheek, right?
Right.
The trolls come out. Jupiter can't explode. You're a dumbass. Right?
Right.
Lo and behold, what did we learn in the last couple of days? Jupiter got hit by an asteroid.
That's right. There was an article about that on the news.
Oh, it was the same day I noticed it. So guess what? All those trolls that came out, when I was just being tongue-in-cheek, I said, this is just unusual to see Jupiter flash, okay? It just is, all right? Well, then a couple days later, we got this image, but this was like a little teeny slice of it where we actually see this big comet-looking object, and this is several days after Jupiter went off this way, and then it will retrograde back again. Jupiter will. But this, we don't know what it is. We don't know what that is. Could it be one of the comets that came by lately?
It's a big comet.
Well, do you remember the two comets that we've been watching the last couple of weeks?
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be one of them. But that's pretty intense, right?
It is.
To see these kinds of things next to our Earth and then not.
Is that in scale though?
Yes, this is the Earth. That is the object.
How can that be a comet then? I mean, comet's going to be
that's an Earth
5 times the size of the Earth.
Well, the other thing, Rex, we don't know how far behind us it is, or behind this. So the satellite's looking at the Earth, how far off in the distance it is. We don't know.
I see. Okay.
Right. And then similarly, this is the one that gets us, and I'll stop boring you with my pictures after this, but I got a couple more in case we.
No, bring the pictures on, man. Yeah.
So remember when I showed you this from the various satellite views?
The Anunnaki spaceship.
Yes, the huge Anunnaki spaceship. And remember how huge it was? It was about half the size of the sun or so.
That's a cool view right there. I got to tell you, that looks like something out of Star Trek.
It does.
This
is from a couple days ago. And I mean, when I saw this, I was just stunnerated.
Now, where'd this come from?
This came from our core, this is one of the close core satellite photos. So this is where they get really close to the side of the sun. And then I basically didn't touch it or anything, just blew it up and smucked it up onto a picture. And we've got several different views of this thing. But this is the one, I'm telling you, you will never see a troll talk about this one, ever. They won't talk about it. They're not allowed to.
Wow.
And in fact, this is one of the ones where my insiders really get on me. They say, every time I put this up, I endanger the channel. So I just endangered your channel, Rex.
No.
No. But this is what we think is the winged planet. We actually think this is that big comet/planet that Farada talked about. We think that the objects that you see around it there are the planets or moons around it. And this is like the best shot I've ever gotten of it. In my opinion, this is conclusive proof.
I mean, I think of so many different possibilities. When I first saw it, I'm thinking it looks like an outline of a spaceship, and then behind it, as you said, what could be the moons. To me, I was thinking that could be some type of plasma discharge or energy discharge, and it's close to the sun to possibly harness all of the fusion or energy that it creates, kind of like what you see in Stargate Atlantis and such. So it's pretty incredible, though. That is absolutely enormous. And you're saying this is recent. Was it Soho satellite, or what exact satellite was it?
Yeah, so I have a link in my last video if anybody wants to go to it to look at the research. This is actually a researcher that was looking at, I can't remember which core satellite, but was one of the really close in core satellites. And you can see this is in a distance perpendicular to the Earth and to the sun. So if you want to go back and look at my, and I'll send the link to you, Rex, when I send you these photos for your show.
Okay, great.
And then you can just go link it, and then people can go look at that video. And he does a whole thing in there. And in this video, at the name of the video is "I Can't Sleep Anymore."
Man,
oh, do I know that feeling? You look at something sometimes, you're just like, "Wow, that's not good at all." That's one of those images. Whenever I see that thing, I crap my pants. I'm just like, "That's the one. That's it."
And what can you just imagine if that is a spaceship? What it'd be like inside of the craft?
Well, they talk about the moon being hollow and things like that, and
Right.
it leaves one wondering, when you then go read a scientific article where they shot a projectile at the moon and it gonged like a bell for a week, and then you're left, as a layperson like us, you're left sitting there going, "All right, well now tell us the rest of the story, science. Why did the moon gong like a bell?" Right? They'll tell us the part about the gong, but they don't ever go to the point where this is why.
Well, how about the giant maskins on the dark side of the moon?
I know, right? Or the towers that I think that if you're watching this stuff, or if you've been watching this stuff for a long time, that there are images of the moon that have been hidden.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean, there's the moon is a very mysterious place indeed.
Which kind of brings up the last thing we can kind of talk about. But I think you wanted to talk about a whistleblower too that maybe you might have on later on down the road. But before we get to the whistleblower, I was going to say, I really do believe that the passing of this thing sometimes comes really close and causes lots of damage, like we saw in that Egyptian account in the Coburn Bible. Okay, I think that that's sometimes what happens. I think other times things line up in such a way that we get very little effect from it. A dusting, some asteroids, some damage. Okay. I don't know where we're going to be on the spectrum this time around. All I know is that something's coming at us. And I think that this is that Nibiru wormwood that they talk about in the Bible. And it just, to me, we would all have to depend on where we're going to be relative to it and perihelion, all that stuff that we're trying to figure out. And the government's not helping us, man. They are just not helping us. And it ticks me off, Rex, because last time I checked, I pay their paycheck. Send a note to NASA on this subject. You will get ignored. They have no right to ignore the public. Didn't we give them $14 billion?
Publicly, I'm sure.
I'm getting sick of people thinking the government is us. The day that they stepped out of that understanding, they became criminals, in my opinion. The government is a contract between the governors and the governed to try to build a society that we can all live in, right? And part of that is we collectively put money together to pay for things like the space program. Right, Rex?
Well, and another thing too, not only what you're talking about, but also corporations and large businesses. It seems like they have, kind of created their own manifestation of the law and of governance because they've got so much authority to tell these politicians and the government what to do. And do you want to talk also about what happened to you recently?
Well, yeah, I'll throw it out there. I mean, I'm a super troop, right? When I work for some, I'm a cybersecurity expert, and I just got a great review. I just got a bonus, and everything was going great in December. And just a week ago, I was called randomly and released from my job. That's how they got to me.
Now, how did they find out about your YouTube channel?
I don't know how my boss found out about it. I guess it wouldn't be hard for my boss to, maybe, I don't know. I didn't make it public at work or anything like that because I knew better, right? I knew that they'd ostracize me if I talked about it. So I just stuck to my job. But, you know, somebody found out about it and they brought in an HR firm and they recommended that they release me immediately.
They brought in an HR firm.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
You should feel proud. You really should.
No, I'll find another job. I'm not worried about employment or anything like that. But it's just one of those things where it's like, really, man, you're gonna fire me because I have a YouTube channel talking about space stuff?
Welcome to the new America.
I know, right? And see, this is the thing that's ticking me off a little bit lately. Let me give you an example, right? Social Security is a great example, and I want to lay this out here because this applies to anything you put the word government on. Social Security was originally designed where all the working people of the United States were going to contribute to a big fund that would always be there for the working people of the United States. It was not a social program. It was not taking from the rich to give to the poor. In fact, they set a salary limit on how much you can take. So you can only go up to, like, I think it's 113,000 now for Social Security. You don't have to pay beyond that. So it is not a tax on the rich in any way, shape, or form. Okay? It's a savings account for the American people. What have they turned that into?
I don't know. I mean, it's
They've
a
turned it
joke.
into a slush fund. They're like saying we need to cut back on Social Security. Wait a second. Who gave you the right to cut back on something that we paid for? Do you know what I'm saying? Now apply that same logic to NASA. Apply that same logic to the Defense Department. They don't have a right to do what they're doing. They don't have a right to cover any of this up. They don't have a right to withhold anything from us.
However, legally they've been able to put enough bills and laws and regulations, personnel into power to make it. Oh yeah, well, we can keep it to ourselves because it's a part of national security. We can we can do whatever we want. It's a part of national security. I mean, it's all
so
a
then
part
the
of the
question is,
design.
if that's the way it's going to be, so if that's the reality of things, then who's in charge?
The gray goo.
Right. Well, you guys, people have to start asking questions. You can't have, this is the biggest news story. All right, let's just for a second assume that
Steve, who do you think's in charge? Who do you think the Pindar or the top of the line of as far as for enforcers is?
Wow. All right. Well, remember, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to be tilted. Okay. And I tilt towards Lucifer. I feel, and again, I don't mean to go religious fanatic on you. We've been having a fun conversation. I can turn a lot of people off when I say the word Lucifer, right?
I don't think so. I mean, it's, there's certainly, if you look in the media today, and I'm not a religious person at all. I'm actually, I certainly have my spiritual beliefs, but that's another time and another day. However, I certainly see that the media today pushes this Luciferian agenda, this very dark program. And, they did a pretty poor job making Lucifer, the TV series. I mean, if you watch the character in that series on Fox, I mean, just the screenplay and the story writing's horrible. So it's just, if you're trying to promote this guy, I mean, but they make him now, it's like, oh, he's a pretty cool guy. I mean, he used to be really intense, but now he's mellowed out in his later years, and you should just give him another chance, and it's just weird how they're pushing it.
So you've got two opposing views. Luciferianism basically says that the serpent was trying to help Adam and Eve. So if you're familiar with the Bible story of Adam and Eve, they took the knowledge of the tree of good and evil because they were tempted to become gods.
Right.
So the idea was, if you take of this fruit, you'll become like God. And the whole tragedy of that story, by the way, is he always intended us to make us like gods anyway. We didn't have to take it. He was going to give it to us. Okay? That's why it's such a tragedy. But going on from that, the Luciferian would say, no, God is the bad guy. He wants to hold knowledge back from you, and he wanted to give us knowledge. And then Luciferianism kind of takes off from there, that Lucifer's the good guy. Well, we see in the West, maybe not in the East. I don't see this in Russia so much, and I think it has to do with Russian Orthodox Christianity is a lot tougher than our Christianity. In fact, Vladimir Putin believes he's a hardcore Russian Orthodox, as you would imagine, right? He's going to come from that point of view. Anyway, I was off on a tangent. My point being is that you see in the Western world with the Bilderberg Group and the Trilateral Commission and all these dark societies and everything like that, the common thread seems to be Crowleyism, that form of Luciferianism that says that it's the better way, right? And it's just infused in everything we see in leadership now. I mean, the Bohemian Grove, for example. What the hell are they doing? Why are we putting wait a second. Why are we putting a temple to Baal in Times Square? Can somebody answer that for me?
Well, it's certainly interesting how they're really starting to bring out more ideologies into the mainstream. I mean, there's now statues of Baphomet in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, don't think of it as good and evil. Just think of Luciferianism as a religion for a minute, right?
Sure.
One of many. Buddhism, okay, Hinduism, Christianity, whatever, right? Luciferianism. Let's put the shoe on the other foot.
You there, Steve? I don't know what happened. We started talking about Lucifer and we lost connection there.
Out, Rex.
Call Steve back here, see what's going on. Steve, are you there? Steve,
where did you lose me?
We were talking about the Luciferianism. You said just look at it as a religion, and then it went from there. I lost you.
Yeah. So from an American point of view, right? Or at least think as American, right?
Okay.
So the idea would be, let's say this group of Buddhists, okay, this group of evil Buddhists got together under the Dalai Lama, and they started to try to plan to take over the United States government. How would people feel about that?
Right. I mean, I'm sure they'd be very
They'd feel radically offended. Like, I'm not a Buddhist. I don't believe in Buddhists, maybe, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, why is it okay if Luciferians take over?
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, nobody should have. I mean, it's certainly people should have the right to think for themselves and make their own decision.
Well, that's what this whole channel about Nibiru is, right? That I have WSO. Look, the establishment is lying to you. In my religion, the only person that is the source of lies, we call him Lucifer. He's a liar. That's what we call him, okay? So you ask me where the source of power comes from? I don't believe this world has been under the control of God for a long time. I think God can insert himself where people that follow him insert themselves, such as ambassadors, like the Bible talks about us being, Christians being ambassadors to this screwed up world. I don't think this world has ever been under any kind of God control since we've been here. I think it's always been under Luciferian control.
Do you think
dark man? That's a dark thing to say.
Well, it's not. I mean, especially because you look at the people that are in the entertainment industry and they boast, many of them, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of the entertainment industry brags about how they sold their soul to the devil. And there was, one night, basically, they said they wanted fame and fortune and they decided to sign that contract. So, I'm not a religious person, but I've certainly read the scriptures many times and I see what's going on around me. And it definitely makes me wonder if there's some type of nefarious agenda. I would say also, Steve, that it seems like there's a big push right now to just kind of create this divide and conquer, get people wound up with every different aspect of their daily lives and with the media that's portrayed, the programming, the way that it kind of sculpts people's mentalities. I've known since a very young age that TV is, it's used to condition people and program people, and it has subliminal agendas. I've known about it for years, but still, regardless, even knowing that, I think about how much it's influenced me. Growing up watching films like Flash Gordon, over and over and over again as a kid, stuff like that. I mean, that makes an impact on you later on in life. Whatever you watch, whether it be Leave It to Beaver or National Lampoon's Vacation or whatever, just watching that as a kid, it kind of sculpts your mentality over the course of your lifetime. You reference things to what you saw as a child or growing up, subconsciously and consciously. So with the way that the media has obtained so much control now, and with the power and resources they have and the abilities that they have from the MK Ultra programs that they've learned and mastered since then, it seems like they can kind of take millions, if not hundreds of millions of people that watch these blockbuster movies and films and TV shows and kind of push them down certain paths and agendas.
Yeah. And so again, I if you look through history and, even if you're just a lay historian, show me a place where we saw, and I mean, they even tell you in history class, utopia can never be reached, right? Well, my answer to that is, well, let's still try, right? Let's not just let this government roll all over us, right?
Right.
And it's not just the government. It's to your point, it's this madness of complete, you almost can't distinguish between corporate and government anymore. Especially when it comes to the banking industry and the Fed and all that. The way that they trade from, Treasury Secretary to the head of the Fed to the head of the World Fund. You know what I mean? It's just like, none of us are playing there, Rex. None of the regular people are playing that game. Who are these people that can sit there and chart the course of destinies of countries and stuff like that? Who the hell are these people? And when you start to wake up to things that have been hidden from you, like Nibiru, this should be something this should be common knowledge. Every American should be preparing for this right now. It should just be like, all right, it's time to prepare for Nibiru now. And everybody should go and get their bunkers ready. And we should just get through this together as Americans and, pull it back together again when the damage is done, just like we do with hurricanes, just like we do with floods, just like we've done with every disaster as America, right? No, what are they doing? They're leaving people on the coastlines, Rex.
They're promoting the coastlines.
They want people to be by water so bad. I just, if what I'm saying is true, this is the worst criminal act in the history of mankind, in my opinion. Worse than anything ever done before. So I have every right to ask my government why you won't tell us the truth about this stuff, or at least respond to our data. When I give data to NASA and they ignore me, or they call me a fruitcake, come on, guys, I'm not a fruitcake. I'm getting the same images from your satellites, okay? Tell me what that is, that thing coming under the sun, will you? Oh, just don't pay attention to it. It's camera anomaly. Well, then why do I see it in 8 different frames? Why won't you tell me the truth? Well, they're not allowed to tell you the truth, Rex, because it would cost them their job. So they have everybody afraid. Oh, if I tell the truth, or if I come out and say that I believe this or that, then they're going to do this or that to me. Well, what kind of a government does that sound like, everybody? That sounds like fascism to me, where you can't speak your mind anymore. You can't be honest about your feelings. You can't call government on a problem. Bullshit. I call bullshit on all of it. So if you guys all want to call bullshit on it with me, great. Let's call bullshit on it. But in the meantime, there's a planet coming towards us, or some kind of comet planet or star, and there's lots of proof on it. So the question is, what are we going to do about that?
And also, if there's a possibility to create some type of diversion out there, send rockets or propulsion systems that have enough efficiency and power to push it off course enough to where the effects would be minimal. Because I certainly don't think that it's going to make contact with the Earth if it's even going to get close to us, or how far away it's going to be. But maybe, but you know what? Let's go back a second. You're talking about how people are afraid to come out and say it exists. Yet there's, from CNN to Fox News to MSNBC to Science Daily to Caltech University, science magazines, etc. They're all coming out now saying, yeah, there's a planet X. And
and by the way, it's got an elliptical orbit, and it takes about 3,000 years.
Right. Like, it exists, but you'll never see it. So just shut up about it. And we were talking also about the different comments that people put. I sent a couple files to you that I got on the podcast saying, how I should basically be put to death because I put these podcasts on the show, and it's quite humorous. Now, another thing too, that one video that you put up of the green planet, it looks like a green planet. Could you share that with us? Just a little clip of it?
Yeah, sure can. Let me dig it up here. Yeah, that was from yesterday.
That's awesome.
It was like a long time ago. Seriously, man, it seems like one day so much stuff. So we'll start out with this one here. So I was checking Moonglow. This was actually yesterday, and first time I've ever seen this. By the way, we typically in these sky cams we're seeing the refracted system all the time. So first thing I'll point out to you is that there's a lot of busy stuff going on in here. Some of it's flare, some of it's not. But I can tell you that this is not a flare because it's coming from the other side of the dome. If it was a flare, we would see it on the inside of the dome, right? And we would see the light of it clearly against that white background. So here is what I think is definitely an object, okay? And then, kind of zooming in on it, you see that it's got kind of a red.
It's not on the screen.
Oh, my bad. Okay. So I'm looking at Moonglow. This is the All Sky Cam network. This is where they have these 360 domes that look up into the sky. And if this was a lens flare here, this green thing where I got the question mark, if that was a lens flare, you would see it also on this white dome. Okay? Plain and simple. This is not a cloud in the sky. This is a dome right next to it. You would see it. Okay? If it was a flare from the sun. So we know it's not a flare. It's an object. Okay, so the question is, as we zoom in on it, can you see it, the zoom in picture?
Yes, I can.
So now we're starting to see this weird multicolored, like first we see the red cloud like around it. And I'm not sure if it's a planet or if it's a nebulous type thing or what it is. But the reason I called it a green planet is because I've never seen it before. And then as it further came up, it does turn into a round planet. So like 10 minutes later, I took a shot from the side view. Look at that, Rex.
Could that be the blue Kachina?
Could be. I don't know. Look, man, it's got a blue layer to it. It's got a red layer to it. I mean,
well, the blue Kachina is good, so we got that going for us.
Right, but I mean, guys, there's a big green orbular object that's showing up in North American sky cams, okay?
That's
I didn't
incredible.
put it there, man. That's not Photoshop. I just took a picture. You know what I mean? Wake up, man.
Well,
there's
we've talked
than you think.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, Steve. I was just going to say, so, I've talked to Bob Evans and Bob Fletcher and Gil Broussard, and they've all got their own different opinions and things. And what I like about Bob Evans is he brings up the possibilities of, okay, well, yeah, that's not Nibiru, that's one of its moons. And there's these pictures of this heavenly body, I'm going to use that term, and you can see these slits, looks like zebra stripes almost in it. And you can overlay that with other pictures that were taken from different satellites and cameras around the world and different times. So whether it's just an anomaly that they get the same type of anomaly because of the lens flare or whatever, or it is actually some type of moon or something, that's just incredible to think about. But I'm looking at this right here and I'm saying to myself, okay, well, if that isn't lens flare, if that isn't an anomaly, if that isn't swamp gas, if that if it is a body of some sort, maybe it's one of its moons or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think what we're seeing is the star, the dark star itself is far away. And then just like look at our solar system, look at how far our inner solar system extends out from the sun. So imagine if you brought one at a 90-degree angle towards us, we would, and especially if it was in the opposite rotation of our solar system, which I, by the way, think it is, these things will just rip across the sky, man. It won't be just like a slow moving Jupiter. It will shoot across the sky. And that's what we're seeing with these planetary bodies. Now, this particular thing, though, is interesting to me because I can't tell if it's a moon or a planet, but what it does have, Rex, is it's got that telltale red iron oxide signature around the outside of it. That's what I think it is anyway. So if it's an object in this system, there's one of the signs that I would say that maybe it is, right? So um, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, man. But when you see stuff like this, you just got to go, please, 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 wake up, help. The more people that jump on and say, you know what, this is convincing stuff. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad, guys. If you send me something, and all my subscribers know, if they send me something that I think is really stupid, I will send back to them, you are trying, keep trying. I never put anybody down. You know what I mean? So but the more people that will just kind of accept the reality of some strange things going on right now, and maybe just asking for more people just to be aware of it. And over time, hopefully we can make some changes that will help us. But man, I don't know, Rex. What are we going to do? Let's say this thing's coming in. Let's say that comes in this year. Let's say that leaves its wake of destruction. I mean, there's no time really to do much else than get your 3 weeks of water and food ready. You know what I mean?
Spend quality time with the people you care about, and just certainly hope for the best. I can tell you this much, Steve. I remember back in 2011 when Fukushima happened, and the media got me basically so wound up that I got really prepared for the possibility of a martial law type scenario, having to fend for yourself, not being able to go to the store and buy food and stuff like that. And there's been many times in the past that I thought that there could be something that would happen to where it would be catastrophic, and think to myself, you know what? I'm still here. I wake up every day. I'm able to make myself a nice breakfast, go to work, have a good day. And if I want to go on a bike ride or go hiking or, go fishing or spend time with my family or come on and do a podcast or have a nice opportunity to speak with somebody that's very intelligent with whatever their field is. And it's just like, eclectic candy, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say just live life to the fullest, right?
Well, and I think that's probably a good place to end it up, because this is the thought that keeps occurring to me every day when I wake up. So when I wake up, my first thing I do is I jump out to see where the sun is rising, right?
Okay.
So check, the sun is rising, all right?
Yeah, it's still there.
Joyful every day now when I see that. When I get to go get my first latte of the day, which I love coffee and milk, I don't know why, I just love it, right? When I have that first latte of the morning and an asteroid hasn't gone through the shopping center, I just enjoy the hell out of that, right?
Nice.
There is a certain thing about being, looking at potential apocalyptic events. There is a positive in that sense that you can turn it into appreciation of life and what you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that's happened to me through this thing is I enjoy petting my dog 5 times more than I used to. Right? I truly am this way. I enjoy taking a drive in the country way more than I used to. Because I have a very solid idea that our end is near, right? So is that such a bad thing?
Well, certainly being prepared for the worst and living life one day at a time and appreciating where you're at, I think that that's a fantastic thing. And, I certainly appreciate you coming on the show with us, Steve. It sure is a pleasure every time I get a chance to speak with you. You've always got just some amazing pictures and video footage like this one you're leaving us with here. That's certainly food for thought. And, man, keep doing the good work. Over 20,000 subscribers now. And they're not just subscribers. I mean, they're good people that want to get information out there, researchers and truth seekers.
Yeah,
and I think
they
that's
all
great.
contribute. They're all contributors. I get stuff from, I think, everybody. Truly, I do.
So tell us about, real quick before we close out, because I know you've got this funding that would be nice to have for your balloon project. So for those that might want to contribute, please give them the access for that.
Yeah, I'll send you the PayPal link if you want, or
absolutely,
they can come right to the YouTube, our YouTube channel, and there's a subscribe or a donate button there. And like I said, we're going to use it all for project work for looking at this monster. So
very cool. All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Really appreciate everything. Also, I'd like to thank our audience that had an opportunity to listen to this. Make sure you check out Steve's work at WSO. That's the Wormwood System Observer, Steve Olson, on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.